So to get you all here on one day is pretty amazing. So Marcus, congrats to you and your team on a great event today. I talked to these guys. We're just going to dive right in. So they all have amazing bios, as you all know. They're great coaches and great people, but we're just going to dive right in. And so how the day is going to work is we're going to start through some questions, and it's going to be about basketball. They're all going to answer the same questions, and then we're going to talk some leadership, and then we're going to have a little lightning round. If there's time, then we're going to have some questions from the audience. So first question I have really for you guys, we'll start right here with Kareem, is just really what are some of the highlights from this year? What can we be looking forward to for UMKC?
Well, we've got a good nucleus of guys coming back. Last year we were young, and hopefully with that year of experience that the guys had, basically sophomores, juniors, a couple freshmen put in there, and really looking forward a year building from how we finished the season last year.
Travis, what about you?
Well, we're excited as we continue to try to build the program. We've got a really good nucleus of returning guys who played significant minutes for us last year. And Jordan Goodwin, Hassan French, Javon Bess, DJ Foreman. And then we're, adding in some transfers, whether it be a fifth-year transfers, and Tremaine Isabel, Deion Wiley from Maryland, and Louis Santos, 6'9", 255, who transferred to set out this past year, and then 5 freshmen. So we've got a combination of about 4 or 5 old guys and then a bunch of new guys. So we like the pieces of our team. Now we start tomorrow trying to put it all together.
Konzo, how about you?
Well, coming off a great season, in my opinion, to make the NCAA tournament also. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? There you go. I think we're coming off a great season. To have some tough years and then to be able to make the NCAA tournament with a great group of guys. I thought their passion, their energy was outstanding. And then to go into a season and lose a caliber kid like Michael Porter Jr., I thought the guys, and what we call, they had no flinch in them. And they didn't back down. They embraced that opportunity and did a tremendous job battling, going through a lot of different things, ups and downs throughout the season, adversity, losing guys. And that's what it was about for us, because we talked about the ability to be accountable every day to do your job, which is easier said than done. They brought their hard hat every day, so it was fun for me, probably one of my better jobs in coaching a group of guys that for years stared adversity in the eyes. And I've never been a part of a situation where you win 27 games in 3 years in basketball. Then all of a sudden you try to get guys to muster up energy and confidence. That's not an easy thing to do. So I give those guys a tremendous amount of credit for being able to do that, because it wasn't an easy thing. So it was a blessing.
Thanks, Coach. Our situation is a little different. We just took over a program that has had a solid foundation the last couple of years, and now we're in a situation where expectations are going to be high moving forward. So what we try to do is try to bring in our type of guys, as well as build on the type of guys that are already there in the program. And we've had a pretty good summer. This is the only summer as a head coach that I've actually practiced my group as opposed to worked on skill development. And we've got some good young players. And our main focus this year is just building a foundation of what we're about, hard work, mental toughness, and discipline. And as long as we can get those things started down the right path, I think that'd be a successful start for us.
First of all, if I look at this group of coaches, I don't know if you guys are poker players, but the first thing they tell you when you sit down at the poker table, you try to figure out who the fish is, all right? And they say once you can't figure out who the fish is, you are the fish. So I might be the fish in this situation here. With our team, I feel it's like our deepest team. I feel like it's our most talented team from top to bottom. So I'm excited about that, but our problem is that we're inexperienced. So I think at our level, when you look at college basketball and scope of things, teams that have success at our level, they have success because they have experienced players to overcome some of the more talented younger guys when they have that competition. So I'm really excited about what we have on our team, but there's just an inexperience factor we just have to figure out, but I feel like we're really, really talented.
Well, if these other guys' mics work, I think maybe we'll see. Okay. We'll get it figured out. So how do you guys define success for your basketball program? So when you look at the kids coming in, you're getting ready to start, like you said, Travis, tomorrow. What's the definition of success for you guys in your programs?
Well, going into year 3 for me, 2 years ago at this point in time, we were picked dead last out of 14 teams. And got every last place vote there was to get, and if there was more to give, we would have gotten them. I mean, we were pretty bad. And we just, at this point, we're still along the journey of trying to improve the program to get to where we can sustain trying to be at the top of the Atlantic 10. So 2 years ago, picked last. And now, some people have us picked to win the league right now. I've seen us from 1 to 2 to 3. So we're continuing trying to, it's a journey, climb the ladder, get better. And then eventually you've got to sustain it, which becomes even harder than sometimes getting there. So for us, we just want to compete at the top of our own league first. And then we want to try to get to an NCAA tournament. This is the first team that I have talked to, at SLU, that I've talked to about winning a championship. We didn't talk about it in year 1 as far as that particular team or even last year. But last night on our first big team meeting before school started today, we went through all the academic responsibilities and all that. And then I talked to them about, they're going to hear me talk a lot about winning a championship. But winning a championship starts this morning. Getting up, going to class, lifting weights this morning, living a championship lifestyle. And we talked about what does that look like, because success is a lifestyle. It's how you get up in the morning and what did you accomplish during the day before you go to bed. And we're in that mode. The program hasn't won in a couple of years, so hopefully we can continue to just get better, and that's what we're trying to do.
Green, what about you?
Piggyback what Travis said. For us, success is going to be trying to get up there and compete with the New Mexico States of the world and Cal State Bakersfield of the world, and mainly New Mexico State, who's kind of dominated our league for the last, probably decade, really, to be honest with you. And so we're climbing there and feel very confident with the group that we have. And again, to piggyback what Travis said, we kind of talked a little bit about the excellence factor of on and off the floor. Excellence is being able to sustain and do the right thing the majority of the time for a long period of time. And so that's what success is for us, and we're striving for, just like everybody on the stage every day.
Rick, what about you?
Well, for us, we're such an inexperienced team once again. It all starts with us off the court. It's just getting our guys to do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And so if we can get our guys to do those things off the court, then we can start worrying about things on the court. And in regards to on the court, this is the hardest thing to do, is just really to build a team, like a real team. And so we always refer to the Golden State Warriors. If they have 4 all-stars that are willing to share the basketball, surely we can get some guys who I don't think are NBA all-stars to share the ball too.
It's good perspective. Dana?
I've always thought being successful was measured on whether you were mediocre or an overachiever. You get some guys who are given certain things and they really couldn't do much with it. But then you get some guys who weren't given much of anything and they went on about their business and overachieved. So, in our program, if we're not overachieving, we're not being very successful. And that all comes through what, a lot of our core values are with hard work and discipline and toughness and things like that. So if we can get a group of guys together that can overachieve, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's on the court, then we feel like we've had a successful group. But we don't want guys to be mediocre. We don't want guys to be average. We don't want guys to do what they're expected to do. We want guys to go above and beyond. And I think if we can accomplish that, then we can look back and say, we had a successful year.
Konzo?
Well, I think success for me, in dealing with our players, and I'll give you backdrops of me so I can give you context, is just really maximizing everything you have in you, period. Whatever, exhaust everything in you. And maximizing Friday, Saturday night at midnight. Give me the same guy at 3 p.m. that you'll be at midnight, because I'm not with you. Because there's a trust factor. But it's my job as a coach, when you're talking about success, because in recruiting, it's a two-way street. We talk as coaches all the time, a 40-year relationship. We sell it in recruiting. Well, how do you stand on that? So me standing, I have 3 seniors right now. I meet with these guys. What do you want to do when you're done playing basketball? I want to be this coach. Like Jordan Geis, I want to be in agriculture. So it's my job to go meet with somebody and say, this is what Jordan Geis want to be. How can he work for your company? That's me maximizing everything in me as the guy that recruited him to be successful, because what happens, I have to be his lens for 10 or 20 years down the road because he can't see that. So first we start with trust. So he trusted me, coach, you have to be that guy because my parents passed the baton to you, coach. So now I have to do my job to make sure he get everything he's supposed to get out of there, because for me on the court, it take care of itself, and we'll put ourselves in position. Nobody thought Loyola would have been to the Final Four. Nobody thought Wichita State would have been to the Final Four. That's just a little bit of luck, God blessing you, raining down on you when the time is right so you can get to that point. But if that's all we're about, then I'm not doing a very good job as a leader and as a teacher, as a father, because what happens, again, I have to be that father as well for some that have it, some that don't. So the trust factor for me is first and foremost, and then we can get to the other part. And now we can have the success we need to have because they have to trust me and give it all to me. And that's not an easy thing to do for a young guy.
See a lot of heads shaking up here and out in the crowd, so I agree with that. So let's start with you, Rick. On the, I think, in life we all have those mentors, or whether it's family, it's somebody you idolize that you're watching growing up playing sports. For all of you, but we'll start with you, Rick. Who was that one person for you that really meant a lot in your life and has helped you become the man you are today?
Well, this is going to sound, corny, but when it's all said and done, it's my parents. I'm a first-generation college graduate, first person in my family ever graduated from college. I'm the oldest of 5. My youngest sister was born when I was 18 years old. So there's that age gap there. My oldest sister was born when I was 11 years old. So my mom didn't graduate from high school. My dad graduated from high school, and that was it. So for me, it was all about, they forced that education on me. I recall that some of you guys from the Kansas City area might know this, but you have to test in order to get into Sumner Academy. And so I knew that I didn't want to go to Sumner Academy. I wanted to go to Wyandotte High School. They was winning state championships with Randy Springs. I wanted to go there. So I flunked the test on purpose. I'm not going to Sumner. I'm not going there. And so my old man found out about it. And so, he put some hands on me, and we had a nice little talk. And I retook the test. And so then it became a sprint for me. So, we didn't have a phone. So it became a sprint for me every single day. I sprint home and grab those test scores and tear them up. And so then at one time I was coming back from school there, and I saw some cars in my house, which was really weird because we didn't have a vehicle. So there was cars that it's not usually see, like Ford Tauruses and Malibus and things like that you don't see in our neighborhood. So I knew right then and there I was in trouble. So I got accepted into Sumner Academy, and the first thing I tried to do, I got in a fight the first day of school. I was trying to get kicked out. And, the principal said, you're not getting kicked out. You're staying here. So me and my father, we had a talk after that as well, too. So, but I didn't like Sumner Academy as I went through there. But when I got done, I got into college, and I saw, the path that Sumner Academy put me on, and my mom and dad forcing me to make sure that I get educated. And then I was fortunate enough now to help my brothers and sisters out. And it's, for me, it's the education part of it that they instilled in me. And now all of me, my brothers and sisters all have advanced degrees, either master's or above. And I thank my mom and dad for that. So those are my role models.
Dana, what about you?
Sure. My grandmother raised me. I grew up maybe 2 hours from here over in Southern Illinois, and she's been the best mentor that I could ever dream of having. Raised me from the time I was 3 years old, put me through school, middle school, high school, and really installed in me the things that we like to install in our program, and that's just the discipline, the hard work, and the toughness part. And she did all that, 65 years old back then, and now she's still raising kids today at 82. So she's been my mentor, just watching her work every day and not having having to ask for too many things or make too many excuses for this or that, and always having that positive outlook, a very strong Christian, and that's led me to be a strong Christian the older as I've gotten. And so I just like to think that she's the best mentor I've ever had. Yep.
Conzo?
I would say my mom. I mean, that's an easy one. I was born, for those that don't know, I was born on the St. Louis side. So about 4 or 5 years old, my mom moved to the east side, but my mom and dad's side of the family is on the St. Louis side. But just, there's the things that I saw her go through for a long time. She had 3 kids, and she adopted my little cousin, which anybody knows is my sister. She's been with me since she was 2. She's 41, 42 now. No high school diploma. I've never seen my mom complain, make excuses. Didn't apply, and this has nothing to do with this, didn't apply for child support, just struggled to make ends meet. She worked at a bar. She worked at the Mayfair Hotel. I think it's the Mayflower downtown St. Louis. I don't know if it's still there anymore. My brother and I, we'd be out 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on nights she worked, and 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. And just her from the standpoint, never use cuss words, never swear, drugs, alcohol. In that environment, she was never about that. And just to never see her complain, and just all the stuff she went through, I just said, I got to make it work for her. Whatever it was, I never really had a plan outside of going to college and play ball, but I had no direction of what's next. It was just, I got to make it work for her. That was the most important thing. Nothing else really matters. It just the power in which my mom was. Going to my junior year of college, she moved from East St. Louis my last 2 years, and she lived in Indianapolis and struggled to make ends meet just to be there. When I was done, she moved back to East St. Louis, and it was that. So my whole life, of course, is different now because I have a wife and I have 3 kids, so that changed, especially in God's eyes. So I have perspective of where it falls in line, but there's nothing in the world could ever replace the value of my mom, so without question. Yeah.
Travis?
Well, as you sit and think about it, I've been fortunate. I think along every step of my life, I've had different mentors. And mentors, I see somebody as somebody that gives you direction, that helps you along the way, gives you advice or direction or whatever it is. And I've been very fortunate to be surrounded through the different steps of my life by a lot of different ones, and starting with my mom and dad, who taught me the importance of Christian values and faith, and the importance of family, the importance of my education. My dad taught me the game of basketball, but my dad was a high school coach early on, but he always made it known to me that he's not going to push me. The only way he's going to go out in the driveway or in the gym and work with me is if I ask him to do that. And I've carried that over to my children as well, because you don't want to push things on them, but you want to be there for them to teach them. But I've been my high school coach, Don Parson, who won over 800 games in high school. As a high school player, I started as a freshman and all this other stuff. He made it hard on me for 4 years, every single year, and it really taught me a lot. I was getting more notoriety as a player and things like that, but he never treated me differently from the first year I played for him to the last year I played for him. And you just go on and on throughout your career, from different college coaches to professors. I could go on. And even here in St. Louis, just living here 2 years, I've had different people, from Demetrius Johnson to other people, who've kind of shown me the way a little bit and kind of mentor you and put you in different directions to try to help. So I think, there's different people who've made a bigger impact in certain lives, but I think every day there's maybe a mentor or somebody that can help you. And that's something we try to teach our players. I talked to them about it last night. Life is about relationships. Everything you do is about relationships and who you meet, the bond you can form for them. You never know when you might be able to help them, or you never know when you might need a favor from them. That's one of the last conversations with my son before he left for college, is talking about build as many relationships as you can, as many as you can. Meet as many people as you can, because you never know when you'll make a difference for them or they can make a difference for you. And I've been fortunate. A lot of people helped me along the way, a lot of people.
Thank you. Kareem?
Well, for me, like these guys, my mother, single mom, that worked a couple jobs to make sure that my brother and I made it through for the majority of growing up and the important times. So that definitely goes without saying. But then also my high school coach, Mike Novell. I'm from Rantoul, Illinois, right by Champaign, and you know, he really helped. My mom was gone a lot, hustling with their couple of jobs, but my high school coach really taught me as you know, from my 8th grade year on through high school, the discipline factor that it takes. And he was actually an honors English teacher, and I was in his class, and by no means did he take it easy on me because I was, you know, a basketball player in his class, and you know, even in the English class, is teaching me the discipline of reading books and doing the things that it took to be successful. And so he idolized Bobby Knight of all people. So you could just kind of tell the kind of high school coach and mentality that he had and that he instilled in me, and it's helped me to this day of going on to work with first Division I job, working for one of the best coaches in Royce Waldman, who coached under Coach Knight. But to have that base and that discipline from early on, he really, really helped me out a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. So, guys, we got a lot of business leaders. We have other coaches in the room today. So let's take the lens from the basketball court, but also look at it from the boardroom, right, from the business side of things. And so, Travis, I'm going to start with you. You've been coaching, 22 years now? Head coach for 22 years.
Starting my 23rd, yeah.
23rd year. So if you could go back 15 or 20 years and tell that Travis Ford something, what would you tell that young man?
Oh, wow. You know, times have changed a lot in our business. Like you said, I've been a college head coach for 23 years, and I think social media has changed it a lot over the last 5, 6, 7 years, quite a bit in a lot of different aspects. You know, I think video games have changed it a lot as far as kids getting in the gym and different things. There's just a lot more options out there for our players to be doing besides getting in the gym and getting better every day on their own. But the biggest thing for me, and I have a lot of coaches, young coaches, call me and talk to me about wanting to get in the business or former players and things like that. And the biggest thing I tell them is the least thing I do is coach basketball. Coach X, and it's probably the least thing I do. I spend more time trying to figure out how we can help our young men in the classroom, dealing with maybe issues, mentoring these men off the court, recruiting, whatever it may be. You better be in it about the young men more than you're in it about the basketball, or you will not be, it won't be for you. You will not have much success. And they always say, well, I bet coaching's a lot of fun. What we do is not fun. I wouldn't call it fun. I call it rewarding. You know, what we do, I wouldn't say it's just a whole lot of fun. We have fun. But what we do is rewarding. What we do is rewarding. You get into coaching or teaching what we do because you want to try to make some difference in some young men's lives. And along the way, you get to coach a little basketball every once in a while. So that's the biggest thing I think that was kind of new to me when I got in it as a coach 23 years ago, that, man, I'm going to do all this coaching. What's the least thing I do? You spend more time trying to figure out how to help your young men away from the court than you actually do on the court.
So, Kareem, with you, talk to you about building a team of people around you, right? So you obviously played college basketball. You were fortunate enough to be a coach with Pitino to win a national championship with Louisville. So you've seen it at the highest level. So what are you doing now to run a program and build that team around you?
Well, I think it starts with the kind of kids that we recruit. You know, we recruit just a quick, small acronym, CAT, C-A-T, Character, Academics, and Talent. And by no fault or no surprise, that character being the first characteristic that we're looking for. And just trying to, as Travis said, it's not necessarily a fun job, but it's rewarding. And so if you can build your program around high character guys that want to try to do the right thing the majority of the time and help them move on and be successful men in the world, then you're doing the right thing. And Rick and I worked together at Indiana State with Royce Waldman, and Coach would always say, want to be around guys that you enjoy losing with. Not that you want to lose, but those are kind of high character guys. So that's what we try to do.
And I think, too, for this is for those of you that couldn't see behind the stage, I thought it was really cool being a guy back there watching. So there's 4 of you back there. And these guys, so talk about character, they don't have to come up here and help each other, but you guys were back there helping each other with defensive moves and what you're doing and what's going well. So I think it starts with the leadership, right,
Absolutely.
of that organization, if you think about that. So I just thought that was really neat to see. So, Rick, for you, what's the common mistake you see from leaders today? Again, whether it's the business world or the basketball world, what mistakes are you seeing out there?
Well, we have our rule, and it's the number 1 rule in our program, and it's a really simple rule, but it's the hardest one to keep. And it's not just for the players with us, it's us with our players. Number 1 rule in our program, tell the truth. And if you look at what's going on in our society, people are not getting in trouble for what they did. They're getting in trouble for lying about it. So obviously we know what's going on in the world with Ohio State in this situation. I mean, just tell the truth. That's the number 1 thing. We always use the example of Ryan Lochte, the Olympic swimmer. I mean, he went out, broke curfew, got drunk, and didn't come back on time. But he turned it into an international incident by lying about what happened while he was out. Hey, people have been upset, hey, you should have been back on time, curfew, but hey, those things happen. But we make things worse, all right, by just trying to cover it up. We always say that old adage, the cover up is worse than the crime. So we always say the number 1 thing that we need to do is tell the truth. And we always say the same thing as far as operating with integrity when we're recruiting. We just hired a young man on our staff, Keith Pickens, who played for Conzo at Missouri State, is from the St. Louis area. And so in my background and trying to vet him out to make sure I did my due diligence with him, I happen to know his head coach's wife. And so I asked her, I said, what do you think about Keith Pickens? Said he's the best person I've known. And I said, the best coach, the best player? Said, best person I've ever known. I hired him. That's simple. That's simple. The people around you, the people that you're going to surround yourself with as assistant coaches, as a strength coach, as a director of basketball operations, they're mentors to these young men. And so I think what happens in college basketball, college athletics, people get worried about the next job, how much money I'm making, things like that. And at the end of the day, I got in this business to help out young men. And any time that I get away from that, then we're wrong, okay? And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish relationships. And I tell our guys, you come to my school, it's not a 4-year commitment. It's a lifetime commitment. So I want you to be able to pick up the phone and call me 10 years from now and ask me about switching jobs, okay? When you get married 15 years from now, I want to be out on the dance floor doing electric slide. I want that invitation, okay? So to me, we have that number 1 rule, tell the truth, and make sure you surround yourself with people that have that same philosophy.
Love it. Conzo, I think as humans, we all want to stay in our little comfort zone, right? It's easy to do, but we can build the callus if we try to get out of our comfort zone. What advice would you have for everybody here today to get out of your comfort zone?
Good question. Really good question. And I'll give you an example. When I first got the head job at Missouri State, I was at Purdue as an assistant coach. Had a few other opportunities, but between Matt Payne and Coach Katie, who was out of it, and the athletic director, they would say, that's not a good one. Hold off, that's not a good one. So finally, Missouri State came, an opportunity I couldn't pass up, but I was happy being at Purdue as an assistant coach. So when I got the job, we won 10 games my first year. We were 10-21 or 11-20, one or the other. It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in the sport, just losing games. And I think the lesson and all that, I wasn't afraid, but I didn't have a lot of direction. And what I mean by that, as a leader of the program, because as an assistant coach, oftentimes, as successful as you are, or the perception of you being successful, you're always behind the scenes. So now as a leader of the program, the buck stops here. This is what it is. So now you're losing ball games. You're 10-21, again, 11-20, season over. Come on after tough losses. And I can't turn to my wife. We have 3 kids. My daughter's 1, I think like 6, and maybe 10 or 11. So I can't really talk to my wife. At least this is how I feel. I can't talk to my wife because she got kids at home, so she's dealing with that. And she doesn't really understand the dynamics of what's going on the floor. I can't talk to my assistant coaches because, Coach, you're the head coach. We're supposed to follow your lead. And I can't talk to, other peers out there because you don't want to seem vulnerable and weak in what you're doing. So for me, just the best thing and the thing that really gave me clarification and validation, I just got on my knees and continued to pray through it all, just get understanding and balance. So the moral of this story is don't be afraid to ask questions because I'm not sure if I'll ever be the all-time lead in anything at Mizzou because I don't have a desire to do this that long. I do it to the best of my ability, and whenever God's plan is the next move, and I'm gone. It's that simple because that school will go on with or without me. And I understand that. I'm grateful to have the opportunity. But what I found in all of that, don't be afraid to ask questions. There are high school coaches in here and AAU coaches in here right now that I call for advice. And they don't, it's not even about their players because we're all trying to learn and be the best that we can be. And ultimately, every time I ask information, it's to give to somebody else. And it's our players. If I can't give them guys everything I have, my life has been on display. I don't have a problem with being transparent because that's what it is. So I think the biggest thing in that lesson, even as a leader, don't be afraid to be vulnerable in that situation and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with it.
Great advice. Thank you. So, Dana, you were, at the time, the youngest Division I basketball coach hired. So congratulations on that. That's a big deal. But that doesn't just happen, right? And so you had to be a student of the game. We all want to be students of the game in our businesses. So what do you do to stay on top of your game day in and day out?
Sure. It was difficult being the youngest coach because there's so much that you don't know. And I would always joke with a coach in our conference at the time. I was in the Ohio Valley with Coach Ray, and there was a coach in the league by the name of Rick Bird. And I'm 34 years old. He started coaching at Belmont 34 years ago. And I was, before every game, I would always say, well, I know how many years you've been there because that's how many years I've been alive. It's just a little running joke. But, it's difficult trying to figure it all out, on your own. And that's what I learned as a young coach was you just can't figure it out on your own. As competitive as you want to be, as much as you want to know, you just can't figure it out on your own. So what I started doing was I started just studying other people that I thought were successful in my same line of work. And some coaches on the stage right now, I've studied them. And I think that once you figure out that you don't have all the answers, that's when the learning really starts. In fact, we just had a camp the other day, and that was the message I sent to the kids is, if you've already got all the answers, then why did you pay to come to the camp? And so I think it's really important that you never stop learning. And the moment that you stop learning, you probably need to try to do something else. But it goes along with anything. If you've got a passion for it, I think you need to find some time throughout the day and dedicate yourself to learning it and studying people that you feel like have done it the right way or do it the way that you want to do it. And and I've actually learned more from the losses that I've had as a coach than the wins. Our first year, we were 5-25. And it was just, obviously going through it, it was miserable. But as I look back, learning from so many mistakes, and now I've been blessed with this opportunity at Missouri State to not make those same mistakes again. And so I've had to kind of grow up fast in coaching because of being the youngest coach and not using that as an excuse not to be successful.
So, Travis, let's talk to you for a second. You've been around a lot of great people, coaches, athletes, obviously. But for you personally, what's that one habit or ritual that you do without miss every single day that helps lead you to success?
Pray. That's usually a pretty good start. Start your day out praying. Appreciating what you have. I think is very important to me.
If I can interrupt, so is that like a habit for you? Like you get up, you got a special room, is it a whole process?
Yeah, I have my little area. I get my coffee, and then I spend 10, 15 minutes and get my day started. I'm a pretty early riser, and that's important to me. I don't, in our business, whether it's recruiting or whatever it is, you may not get to go to church as much as you would like to and get involved with as many things as you would like to get involved with. So it's a lot of, it's good, I think, to spend some time in whatever's, whether it's in the Word or whatever, it's just meditating or whatever it is, to just get some alone time, because pretty much after that time in the morning, my alone time's over. It's pretty busy until pretty late at night. But I enjoy, my staff knows that I drink a lot of coffee. So my rituals, I probably have 8 to 10 cups of coffee a day. But no, starting the day out right, I think is important. I don't have it down right perfectly all the time, that's for sure. But I definitely try.
I like it. That's a lot of coffee. Kareem, what advice do you have for people that have to deal with setbacks? How do we overcome setbacks and just get to that next level sooner rather than later?
Well, I think what Dana said, learning from those setbacks as quickly as possible, and I think all of us probably up here talk about with our players, on to the next play, on to the next thing. Learn from it, and try not to make that same mistake, run into that same wall. But on to the next play, quickly learn from it, and let's try to do better the next go round, and see if we can get that success the next time.
So, Rick, for you, what's your belief systems? When you think about all the belief systems you have, what's that number one thing that sticks out for you? And advice for our guests today: if I can believe this is going to help you with success, what's that going to be?
Well, to me, you got to have some core values, and you got to have some moral fiber. And I remember I worked for Coach Waldman, and we had a guy on our staff that says that he thought the world of him. Okay, he really thought the world of him as a person. He says, but like when things get tight for you, okay, when things start going wrong for you, you lose your moral compass. And so to me, that was like, man, he just like hit home with him. And so to me, it's always about that integrity issue. Like, can you continue to do the right things when things are not going well for you and your program? Can you continue to do the right things when things are not going well for you financially? So to me, when you're in those binds, okay, do you have that moral compass? Do you have that high moral fiber to continue to hold that integrity as your utmost responsibility? Because to me, like, I want to make sure that I'm passing it on to not just like my staff, but my players. But also, I got 2 boys. I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm not very smart. I got a 24-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. So, I mean, that's just not very smart. But what I want to make sure that I do is I want to make sure, am I holding myself to those standards? And just to touch on what they said here, I mean, we always ask our players in the off season, number one thing, work on your craft, work on your game, get better. But then we got to ask ourselves as coaches, are we doing the same thing? So are we doing the same thing we ask our players to do? So that always improving, okay, and not having all the answers. I'm about to get in my car 2 days from now. I'm driving to Cleveland, Mississippi to go visit 2 days with Delta State coach, a Division II coach. And I can't be in a situation where I'm a Division I coach and he's a Division II coach. What am I going to learn from him? A ton, plenty. So I just think that those things, like having some humility in this game, is what's really important.
So, Konzo, as you've climbed the ranks in your craft here, how has your mindset changed as you've now gotten in the SEC?
I think I've always been the same guy. I think you just get older. I have one guy was at Marcus Green. He was the guy I recruited from when I was assistant coach at Purdue. Now, Feast played for me at Missouri State. Jerron played for me at Tennessee. So they probably have different level of stories, and they kind of change over time. But I think just the wisdom every day you get older, and not being afraid to say I love you, because I use that word all the time, because I think it's a real word. I use it all the time. I love you, man, you're doing a great job. And I have a relationship with those guys, so it wasn't as if they were done playing, it was over. I love you, man. You're doing a tremendous job. How's your family? You got to keep growing. And I don't, even though they're all men, and I treat them as men, but I still talk to them and pour wisdom into them, because that's what I'm supposed to do, because I expect them to pay it forward. So just really the love piece is the biggest thing for me, and not being afraid to say that, because I think it's very important, because we're so rough and so aggressive. And I was, tough, hard-nosed, and some describe me as my style being tough, hard-nosed, but it really isn't. It's just a level of discipline. And then you look up the definition of discipline, it's another form of love, so it's all the same.
I like that. I did not know that. So, Dana, I don't know if you subscribe to this theory or not, but I believe in you study leaders and stuff in business and in sports world, but we talk about self-talk and visualization. Can you walk us through that? I mean, is that an important part of your life?
Well, I do think that you study other leaders. In fact, I just attended a global leadership summit a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of GLS, but it's really good. If you haven't, next year they've got another summit. And normally they have satellite camps around the country. It's based out of Chicago, but you got some of the best leaders in the world. And we don't practice those things as a team, but I like to think of my prayer life as a visualization. And I practice that literally every day.
So a lot of us are guilty of putting fears in our minds, like I can't do this, or maybe this is going to happen. And, we all have these setbacks that we get. But I don't ask all of you this, but how many of the fears you put in your mind have actually blown up to the magnitude that you put them in your mind to be? Anybody want to go first? Travis?
Well, I don't think fear is a bad thing. I think you got to have a little bit of fear in you, to fear to fail. I talk to my team a lot about that. I want them to be confident going into games, but also have a little bit of fear of their opponent. So I don't think fear is a bad thing. I think it all boils down to preparation. There's good fear, there's bad fear, there's good pressure, there's bad pressure. Bad pressure and bad fears, you go into something and you're not prepared to do it. So you're feeling frightful and you're not ready for it. Good pressure is, man, I'm ready to attack this game. I'm ready for this test, whatever it is, because I've studied, we've practiced. But you've got butterflies in your stomach. You've got that fear in your stomach, but you're ready to go. So there's, we talk to our team a lot about good pressure, good fear, bad fear. But I don't think fear is a bad thing. I think it can get you up in the morning and make you keep going no matter how much success you've had or not. I don't think that's always a bad thing.
Reem?
Yeah, for fear, I don't think that there's really many things that I've psyched myself out, just where I was so fearful of the moment or fearful of whatever the outcome may be. Just try to go about things and even instilling into our guys and my kids and my own of having that, not having that fear factor of whatever the moment may be of knowing that you've put the work in and the outcome, it's going to happen. It's going to come out in your favor the majority of the time if you put the right work in, no matter what it is. And so I think that alleviates that fear factor, and that's really how we try to go about it in our program, and that's how I try to go about it daily.
Dana?
I'm not going to lie. When I was 28 years old, driving from Normal, Illinois to Nashville, Tennessee to be a Division I head coach, I was very afraid. In fact, taking over a program that hadn't won in 30 years made it twice as scary. But what it did for me was it taught me the importance to leaning more into my spiritual life. And even now when I come up against fears, which I do all the time, I just lean into my spiritual life. And that's not just job related, but family, being a husband, being a father. There are definitely things that I fear on a normal basis, but I just lean more on Christ and let him, work things out the way he sees fit.
Rick?
I think these guys have touched on it, but it's just a fear of failure. I think that's the one thing that we're always afraid of. And I often say this, down the line, if the bills aren't being paid at home, if we get evicted from our house, if my kids don't have clothes on their back, no one's going to go to my wife and Brianna and say, hey, what are you doing? You're not providing. It comes back to me. And so that fear of failure, of not doing the things in order to provide for my family is my biggest concern that I have. And then also, I had Chris Hollander on my staff when I was at Mississippi State, who now works for Conzo. And I remember our first meeting about basketball before we were going to go out and present the information to our kids and have practice. And so my fear is that I'm not getting across the information that I need to get across to not just my staff, but also to my players. And my wife always helps with me. I have a degree in applied mathematics, and so I'm just, so I think when I get done giving the information, it's been really slow and it's been really thorough. But in fact, it was really fast and not detailed at all, because I'm expecting people on the analytical side to keep up with it. And so that's my fear with me sometimes, is that I'm not giving the information that I need to give to my staff. Because if the staff doesn't know what they're doing, then how do we expect the young men to know what they're doing? So just slowing that information down, I'm always fearful of the fact that I haven't presented the information in order for them to succeed.
Gonzo?
I think with fear, and I was always a player that played with a level of fear, not the opponent, but just in the preparation, doing my job, carrying out the assignment. And then you look at fear too. It just heightens your awareness. I mean, not that you're afraid of an individual, person, or situation, but I think for me the biggest fear, and I noticed I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of cancer, back in November of '97. And Joshua, my oldest son, was just born, 4 months old. He's 21 now. And the biggest fear for me I think I was 20, maybe 26, 27. My wife was, she's 2 years younger. Just laying there in that bed before they did the chemotherapy treatment, and just to say, if this is it, is this it? And just to really feel that, because, we talk about it all the time. You see it on the news, you hear about it, but is this it? So it's November of '97, and the doctor allowed me to go home for Thanksgiving, because they probably assumed, obviously it's God's plan in the end, but for me that was probably the biggest fear. But it's never been a man, because I'm not a guy to kick up dust and fight. I don't do all that. I don't have that kind of time, and I'm not about that. But just right there in that moment, like, this might be it. And that'll bring you to your knees. And I always tell our guys, our players, every now and then, close your eyes, guys. And we're in the locker room. I'll say, close your eyes right now. Just think about it. This was your last 2 minutes to live. Because truthfully, nothing is promised. I mean, so at that point, when I got to a point, when I got out of that situation, what I really prayed to God, whenever it's your plan, give me enough strength to deal with it, and allow enough resources behind so they can push forward. Because you gave me those kids. And God says in John 14:14, if you ask in my name, I shall give. And that's his word. So certain things I ask him. So he never goes back on his word, so he got to stand strong on his word.
Well said. So let's talk about, most leaders are avid readers, or they like to read books about other leaders, whatever it may be. If you guys could say one book, if you like to read, one book that you would recommend for our listener, for our guest.
Well, the book, you got to understand, so I'm a left-brain guy, so I can't stand fiction. So I have no desire to read something somebody made up. So I'm a nonfiction guy. So for me, at a young age, I read by Alex Haley, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And to me, just the transformation of like his thoughts and his beliefs, and then like what he engaged into and what he involved into. And so that helped me as a teenager when I read that book, as far as like, hey, you may have thought that this is the right way, but now like as you continue to learn more information about what's really going on, it takes you on a different path. So to me, just that journey as a man, like that's something I always like, hey, I don't care what you believe, what your ethnicity is and things like that. If you read that book, you come to find out like how you can change and how you can evolve as a man.
For me, it's a book called Two Chairs. It was given to me by a group called Nation of Coaches, which is a Christian-based group that helps coaches, part of NABC. And it's by Bob Bodine. And it just talks about how you should start your day with two chairs, you having a conversation with God. And it's really a good book. And what it showed me was, there's really nothing too big for him. Whatever it is that's on your mind when you first wake up, if you give it to him, it's really nothing too big for him. If it's thanks, I mean, it's a really good way to start your day, and it's a really quick, easy read as well. It's called Two Chairs.
Kanzu?
I think for me, the one book I enjoyed reading, and well, it's two books really, but The Energy Bus by John Gordon, I thought that's always a good book. You can always go back to it. In the book I read about 20 years ago, maybe 15, Good to Great, just about business and development. So I know I gave you two, but those books, probably only two books I've gone back to over the years, and I highlight everything, but I thought those two books give me balance and give you a peace of mind.
Those are all great books. We just, our team studied Energy Bus 2 years ago. We actually did a whole study on it and read it together and all that. But a book a couple years ago, and I've kind of had my staff always read it. It's called Lead by God's Sake. And it's a story about a coach who thought he had all the answers, and basically a janitor ended up showing him the way to how to lead his team the right way and what's important when it comes to leading people. Great book, Lead by God's Sake, a book I just finished earlier this summer, Power of Positive Teams by John Gordon, is a really good book. I always try to read something before season starts to kind of get you going, that you can share something with your team. But that's the one I just finished. But Lead by God's Sake is something that I could read usually every summer, just to give you its perspective. It puts everything in perspective as far as what my role is and what I need to do every day.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We did Energy Bus with our team. Thought that was really good. But just in terms of a networking piece, I think for people in the audience and all of us, the power of who, just basically just knowing and understanding when you're doing a network piece, and like who can help you make the decisions, or who can help you get to whatever your destination spot is. And so I think with the combination of all those and the power of who are some good reads as well.
What would you say, Konzo, you're seeing, where are we as parents, if you will? There's probably a lot of parents with kids in the room. What are we doing wrong as parents, getting our kids ready for sports? Maybe I'm the only one, but...
You trying to get me beat up in here. No, I don't think there's anything wrong. I think everybody parent differently. Now, speaking in the realm of sport, because I've been around it, when I see that they're raising their kids in sports, they're consumed with their kids being successful, being whatever the best player is. I pray to God that I don't want to coach my son, and I love him dearly. I want to have a great relationship with him and just life. My oldest son, he ran track and cross country, so I didn't have to worry about that. My middle one, there's a chance. I have no desire to coach him because I love him, and I want to enjoy, I want to laugh, I don't want to talk. Let somebody else deal with that, because I don't think that's my place. Let somebody else do that. Let's love each other, we laugh, and let's grow together. Let me help you become a man. I don't want to fight you and box you every day. We get in the car, he gets in the car, we just finished playing the game, watch the game. I don't really sit with my wife because she's active. So we get in the car, we go home, boom, next game, get in the car, go home. I've never said a word, never. There's nothing to talk about unless he asks me a question. And he says, Dad, what do you think? And I'll give my 2 cents. It's never about the coach, it's never about anything. I went to his game, he played 45 seconds in the game, might have 45 a minute 45, and I was talking to the coach after the game, the other team's coach. I wanted to just say hello to him. So my son was sitting all the way over there on the bench. And my best friend's on my staff, so he was sitting with my son, and I could see my son, tears in his eyes. I'm over here, and he just kind of gave me a signal. So I finished talking, we got in the car. So I sat in the back seat, so my best friend's son, they sat in the front. So we get home, I never said a word. So I got to work the next day. My friend told me what it was. He felt like he should have played more and all that. So the next day to school, I'm taking him to school. I'm just in the car. I said, you good? Yeah, for some reason, they had the headphones all day long. It's like I can't even talk to him with his headphones on. So I said, man, you good? Yeah. I said, what's going on? He said, well, I felt like I should have played more. So I said, did you talk to coach? I said, well, talk to coach. That has nothing to do with me, because my whole thing with my children, in any sport, and I said to my wife, and I make it very clear, as long as the coach is not harming you, physically touching you, anything like that, that's between you and coach. It has nothing to do with me. And I think that is a lesson for all parents to understand. If you trust the coach to do the job when it's good, then trust him to do the job when it's bad, period.
Very good advice. So one more comment I'm going to make. Coach, Martin, Coach Ford, you guys have probably not been asked this for at least an hour because you've been up here. Mizzou, SLU.
Football game.
Football game. So you may have been asked that today, a time or 12 or 100. So we're not going to talk about it, but we got approval from Marcus and his team. We've got referees and everything waiting behind. You two are going to play one-on-one.
No, thank you.
We're not going to do that?
No.
All right. I tried. All right. Any questions from the audience today? Anybody you want to ask anything to these guys? Back here.
Let's get him the mic.
Will the Billikens be in the Final Four, and what does it have to do with your leadership that's going to help them get there?
Well, we need to take one step at a time. We think we're going to be improved. We'll be better this year. Like I said earlier, I like the guys on our team. I like all the different, strengths of our team. We've improved our team in a lot of areas. But my goodness, there's so much that goes into going deep in an NCAA tournament. There's so much that goes into making a Final Four. There's a lot of luck involved. But, obviously that is a dream. That is a goal, whatever you want to say. But literally, we can't get caught up. And I'm not a big goal person. I don't get caught up in setting a lot of goals, and I don't do it with our team. I'm more concerned about what we're doing today. To try to meet, what are we doing today to try to get to a Final Four? That's more important than talking about going to a Final Four. It's what are we doing today to prepare for tomorrow? But yeah, I like our team. We just started school today. It's the first day of school. Our guys were up lifting this morning at 7 a.m. They're conditioning this afternoon, and we'll have our first practice tomorrow. And the journey begins, and that's what it is. And not to keep talking, but, one thing that they asked Konzo about parents, today it's, I have an open door policy with all my parents. You can come talk to me anytime. You may not like what I have to say or get it, but you have the opportunity to come speak to me anytime, and I'm going to tell you the truth. You may not like it, but this is the truth. But today, so many players, parents, it's all about how fast can something happen for them. And I tell our guys, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. They want such instant success, not necessarily even earn it, not necessarily even take the time. And that's what I want for our team, to bring that up. Just one day at a time. We got a long time till April, and I hope we're still playing in March. So, to answer your question.
All right, one more question over here.
I have a question. I know that you gentlemen coach boys basketball teams, but I'd like to know, what advice would you give to a young lady or girl who's interested in college basketball, high school basketball, to help make them a success? Because we do have a lot of great women's basketball, especially on the college level, and a lot of times they don't get as much play or limelight as the guys do. So what would you, if you coached a girls' team, what would you tell those girls, or would it be anything different than you tell the young men that you coach?
Well, I think you have a lot of really good high school coaches and summer coaches in here right now, so they can go in depth about it, because some of them still train women. So I think you can get more specific right here. But just having, if you have a passion for it, if you're in high school, then go to the high school coach and figure out the best way to get there. But it's a lot of work, but you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the work. So I think the better you are, the more you put into it, the harder it becomes, or you're willing to sacrifice that kind of time to be successful. Because it's okay to play leisurely, but if you want to be great at it, there's a lot of time that you have to put into it to be successful.
So thanks everybody for being there. On behalf of all 5 Division I men's basketball coaches in the state of Missouri, let's give them a round of applause.
All right, I just have a couple closing comments. Again, I think that what we just saw today is not only do we have some really great coaches in the state of Missouri, but we have some great men leading our young adults across the state. So one more round of applause to these guys. Like I said at the beginning of this discussion, the funds here go towards helping different things across the YMCA. So one of the things that it helps is for kids to attend day camp over the summer. Some of those kids need financial assistance. And so what we did was we had some of our kids from day camp sign a couple of our YMCA thank you cards. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to just give a couple, some of these out to the people who purchased tables here, and thank you for your financial support and just knowing, and you'll see from some of these kids how thankful they are, some of the things that they were able to do at the YMCA day camp this summer. So Brett Kazuki, here we go. Mr. Tim Holloway here with the Brad Bill Elite. For some of you guys that don't know, Brad Bill Elite represents St. Louis in the AAU circuit, one of the best teams in the country year in, year out. And so we thank you for your support. Nate Severino here is Southeast Missouri State. Thank you. Ken Strawbridge. Ken Strawbridge, representing the Kirkwood YMCA. Thank you. You know what this is about? All right. Who else do we have over here? Miss Renee Tillman, representing the St. Charles YMCA. Mr. Ryan Arnold, representing Ameren Corporation. Thank you. Who else do we have here? Mr. Lawrence Hooks. Mr. Lawrence Hooks representing Monsanto. Oh, I'm sorry, representing Bayer. I'm sorry. Miss Stella Bowie. Miss Stella Bowie, one of our board members here at the Monsanto YMCA. Thank you, Miss Stella Bowie. All right. Miss Tricia Meinheld, right here, representing the Gateway Region YMCA. Thank you. Mr. Dan Schultz, representing the Gateway Region YMCA. Appreciate you. And our last two, last one we have is this is a special shout out. Our newest partner, we partner with Boys Hope, Girls Hope, and it's a nonprofit where we're collaborating to be able to offer subsidized swim lessons for kids in our community, because drowning prevention is very important to us. Obviously, we teach people how to swim at the Y, but we're bringing them in and collaborating. And so we just want to thank Boys Hope, Girls Hope for their support of the Monsanto YMCA. So thank you. Thank you. All right, and then we have a parting gift for our coaches. If we can, so what we did was we got some basketball signed by the '96 Bulls. Actually, we got them signed by our YMCA baby. So, and I almost asked that cricket in the corner to sign it too. He's taking up so much of the noise. But no, seriously. So at the Monsanto YMCA, we have an ECEC, which is the Early Childhood Education Center, and we bring in kids ages 2.5 to 5 to strengthen early learning. We have about 60 kids in there, and I would say 90% of those kids are receiving financial assistance. So again, when funds from events like this, when there's parents that come in and they can't afford normal daycare, and we want to make it equitable for all across the community, funds like this help parents be able to put their kids in our ECEC. So we got our kids from our ECEC to put their handprint on it, and they got their signatures. There's a couple of chicken scratches on here. So we want to pass these out to the coaches to thank you for coming here and supporting the YMCA. So, Kareem, here you go. Coach Ford, thank you. Coach Martin, here you go. Thank you. All right. Here you go, Coach Ford. Thank you. And last one here, Coach Ray. Here you go, Coach Ray. Thanks, Mark. All right, thank you, guys. And then last but not least, how about a round of applause for our facilitator right here? I thought he did a great job. Let's remember, he'll be starting